Hello and welcome to the Dirty Side of the Grid podcast. My name is Yusuf and this is my co-host Mohammed. And we've turned up late to qualifying, but mafia, so we're at the front of the grid. see. That's fun. That's good.
Incredible. Nice.
Yeah. Anyways, today is the season has ended. Max has won, and this is our first episode post everything really. Talking about kind of what has happened, the consequences of the way the season ended, and then kind of what's going to happen in the future. And then we're going to give a quick intro at the end of kind of what you can expect over the winter break in terms of like content and
Alright, yeah. So obviously this is we're university students, it's the end of term, so we're a little bit behind in terms of news and stuff. So at the time of recording, we've had Mercedes now withdraw their appeal and everyone's been, reacting to that essentially. I guess, what do you think?
I think they had to. I think they would have won if it had gone to court.
That's what Tosa said.
But I think it would have looked bad on Mercedes, bad on Lewis, and bad on the sport in general. So I think at the end they're like, we do get the championship, but then we become kind of like the most hated team on the grid, essentially.
Like, you think that would have happened?
Yeah. I think that all the fans would have hated him. Like, if they got it in court, I think it would have ruined Lewis's legacy in terms of everything he's achieved. Because now Lewis is seen by most people as kind of the guy who's like, he's not the underdog.
Oh,
like,
I sort of see that now.
Yeah, the FIA essentially screwed him over and this. But if it's the other way around and he took the championship like 2-3 months later, he's gonna be the most hated driver in like the history of the sport. So yeah, I'm glad they didn't do it because I think they would have won. So I think it would have looked bad on kind of the sport and them on everyone really. What about you?
It's tough, yeah. It's because it would have been a lose-lose realistically. Because Lewis Hamilton,
Exactly.
if the rules weren't broken, he would have won it. Which means that if they go and take it back, it's within their right to do so. It's just obviously, it gives the fans the opportunity to say, he's been given the best car, he's won all of these championships through no skill and all of this, and now he's just going to go up and win it in the courtroom.
The funny thing is the fans that always say, he can't drive, he's been given the best car, are the fans that essentially can't even drive a normal car, let alone jump it out.
No, they're so young they haven't seen him drive.
Not even that, like, the older fans, they can barely drive a normal car, and they're like, I can drive an F1 car, it'd be so good. Boy, what are you talking about? You can't get off the couch, and then you think you're going to sit in an F1 car and handle the brakes. What are you talking about? You're experiencing like 5 Gs. No one's going to handle that.
True, yeah. People definitely don't realise how... I think there's arguments they don't even like. Certain people, they don't even consider it a sport. Like when you say F1's a motorsport,
they don't know what they're talking
they
about.
don't even realise.
They don't. If you say F1's not a sport, you have no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah,
honestly.
completely.
The amount of kind of conditioning they have to go through and the amount of kind of the forces they have to go to, I don't think any sport in the world, they lose 2 kilos in like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
No, yeah, there isn't. I'm trying to think of one they don't,
Yeah,
and it's
like the closest one in terms of like impact would be rugby. But it's a very different form of impact because someone's actually tackling you down, whereas with F1, the forces on your neck are just incredible. Like 5 times you're just like, because you have the helmet on, so that adds like say 10 kilos or whatever. So that's just all pushing, and then pushing, and it's insane.
It's different, yeah.
And they don't realize it's 50 degrees, like 50 degrees Celsius in that car. Because the engine's literally right behind you. So it's not just the forces, it's hot, as in it's hot. Yeah. If they F1's a sport, they have no clue what they're talking about. Like, even the braking pressure, like to brake on, like push on the brakes.
Yeah.
Like there was this one YouTuber talking about it, I don't know if you know him, bald guy, English.
I remember it because he was an actual driver as well.
Yeah, he was talking
Not
about
like
how
F1 or anything, but he was like a
yeah,
racer.
he drives cars, like his whole channel is on like cars and all of that. And he was talking about how like when he got into the Renault F1 car from a few years back, and basically he stepped on the braking, and then he went back. He's like, I stepped on the brakes, and then my head went forward.
Yeah, so he was doing a couple laps, and he said, you know what,
This
I'm
is
going
on
to
his
hit the
first
brakes
lap.
as hard as I can. That's what he said.
Yeah, and when he did that, he went back. The engineers were like, "Oh yeah, good. You just got 40% brake pressure." So a guy who stepped on the brakes with like the hardest he could. The guy who's raced before has only achieved 40% brake pressure. Meanwhile, they have to achieve like 100% brake pressure.
Like 5 times a lap, and for 90 minutes straight.
Imagine, bro. If you say that, and it's not even like for most drivers, it's not even they're right-footed. They're not left-footed. So this is actually your weak foot. You're braking with your weaker foot, and you expected to put down this amount of pressure. They do use like their body a bit, like let you shift a bit so you can press more. But you're not getting that amount of force every lap. That's insane, to be honest. I think people who say F1's not a sport don't appreciate the amount of kind of conditioning and the amount of what the drivers go through.
Especially the engineering as well. That's the thing that keeps F1 from literally every other sport. The money, the engineering, like it's different. And that's definitely what, speaking to new fans now, that's what a lot of them, like that was the driving force to get a lot of them into the sport. They said they like the engineering, they find it really interesting how intricate the strategies are, the cars are. And to explain it, we will actually come up with a series as part of the winter break. We'll mention a few of the ideas at the end of what we've got coming up, but explaining F1 in terms of the engineering side, the racing side, just the pure basics, and then the people involved. We'll have a series coming out about that to help people get into next year. But back to now and the mess the sport has been left in. So Mercedes withdrew their appeal. They've said, so this was in accordance, it came out the day after the FIA, I believe it was the day after, the FIA released a statement
blaming the fans for the misunderstanding.
They called it a misunderstanding. They said it was tarnishing the name of the sport and the World Championship, which it clearly is. And they said it was a misunderstanding between the fans, the teams, and the drivers. And then they said, we're going to investigate this with the drivers and the teams to make sure this never happens again. No mention of the fans, no clarification as to the misunderstanding, no saying if the rules were breached. Obviously, they're not going to admit to it, but also not defending Masi properly and saying this is why he made that decision.
I guess that comes at the end once they've done the investigation. They're going to have to publish the findings of the investigation.
So here's the thing.
So then it's going to be like out loud. Everyone's going to know that.
Do you think that'll be public known though?
I think it has to be public. Like with the Ferrari thing, it was not necessarily the case because it's kind of all behind.
Just to give clarification on the Ferrari thing first of all, the Ferrari in 2019, they came up with some rocket ship engine, clearly fastest on the straights, incredible stuff, and then mysteriously with about 3 races to go in the 2019 season, there was some clarification of the rules. That's what they called it, and suddenly Ferrari's engine power just gone. And then if you watch 2020, they were clearly a midfield team, like 6th in the constructors or whatever it was, something awful.
They were absolutely horrendous, bro.
And this was, everyone's like, well, clearly they've broken the rules, but the FIA said, we'll just investigate this behind closed doors, and they've never been given a public punishment. We never find out what happened.
But that's different, though, because with this, the consequences are everyone's talking about. I think they would not have investigated it if there was not, if you didn't get the amount of noise that was there after the race. Everyone was talking about it. It's not just we were talking last time about Harry Kane tweeting about it.
Yeah.
But that's how viral it went. It's not just F1 fans. Usually when something like this happens, it's just F1's fans are talking about it because no one else knows it kind of happened. But it's F1 fans. It's people who watch F1 casually. People who've never watched even people who've never watched F1 are commenting on it what just happened?
Yeah, because it was free to air in the UK as well, shown on Channel 4. This was the world stage for F1.
Exactly. So now everyone has seen what has happened, and everyone's talking about what has happened, and everyone's blaming. I think the general consensus kind of between all the fans is, there's people say, but Max deserved to win it, people saying Lewis deserves to win it, but the general consensus is Lewis lost it, not because Max was Max did overtake him and it was great overtaking then. But the consensus is Lewis lost it because the FIA screwed him over. Yeah. That's kind of the consensus of kind of everyone. And it's reflecting very badly on them. I think that's why they came out and they started speaking, because it just looks bad. And we were talking about this. I was watching the WTF one the podcast, right? And Katie mentioned how Michael Masi did not have any experience as, say, in the as a team principal or anything like that, and he's been assigned kind of one of the toughest. It is the toughest like position, because you have to deal with all the team principals, keep everyone kind of in line. Very, very difficult, and he has to do that like every race. He has stewards change and all of that, but he has to do it every race. Charlie Whiting was a team principal, like the ones before him as well. He did really well. Why are you not choosing someone who's had experience dealing with like team principals and the way they act and stuff? It was very easy to see that Toto goes on, especially for us now, it's very clear because you can see how Toto goes on the radio and Christian goes on the radio, and they influence Michael Massey so easily.
Yeah, so Christian even admitted afterwards, like jokingly, he was like, "Yeah, I was screaming at Massey to bring the safety car in." Like, that just shouldn't be allowed. Same with Toto, obviously, his was being.
No, I don't mind them. I don't mind them screaming or whatever, but like, first of all, he has to have like some sort of secretary, like you know, like
second in charge, like
second in charge, like a secretary or something. He or she deals with all the ranting teams, and then he just conveys they want this, they want this, they want this, they want this, and then he deals with it. Or the only communication they get is like whoever the secretary is telling them what Michael's gonna do. That's it.
Because the safety car talk, there shouldn't have been anything. Like that's just a safety car. You can't talk about that.
No, but even this happened before when, like, during the race when, or is it a previous race, he said, "Michael, please don't bring the safety car out."
Oh no, that was for Gio, yeah. So when Gio
that was
the VSC, Toto was saying about this. Like, that's, the whole point of them talking to the race director would be to complain about, I don't know, if
I think that's
Lewis got shoved off the, like, lap one.
Lap one.
When Lewis cut the corner.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's understandable. Like, of course you're going to complain about that.
When you're complaining about the safety car, I think that's not acceptable from the team principals. Like, basically, that's not acceptable. Yeah. But I think he's so easily swayed that they know if they do it, like they would not have done this with Charlie Whiting, because he'd just be like, "Yeah, shut up, I don't care what you have to say."
Yeah.
And he'd just do whatever he thinks is right. But with Michael Massey, they know from experience that if you push him, he'll do whatever you want. You just have to scream the loudest, essentially. That's maybe why Christian was screaming, because he knows that if that happens, he'll get his point across, and Michael will do whatever he wants. Maybe it's the case of like whoever's causing him more of a headache, he'll just give it to them, just to shut them up. I don't know, but if that's the case, that's unacceptable. Like,
yeah, completely.
Like, I think the race, I honestly think, and I kind of, at the end, I'd kind of given up on the fact that the race was going to end under the safety car. Because the race had to end on, like, I wanted, like, that's the thing, if you're going to do it for, like, if Charlie was doing Let's Race, you do it in a very different way. Like, for instance, if you want to do Let's Race, you would have put out like a red flag, got them on the starting grid, got each of them on soft tires, and let them race to the end. But you would not have put in a safety car, or, you know, the track was, so the safety car was out 4 laps.
Yeah.
After the second lap, the track was empty. So he could have let them pass, and then, so he could have let them, like, everyone on laps themselves, 3rd lap, they've got 4th lap to go, and you got 1 lap of pure racing Max behind Lewis, and then no one would have been able to complain because he followed every single procedure. Just Red Bull were lucky, or like their pit stop strategy at that point would have been better than Mercedes.
Yeah.
But the way he did it, just I think ruined the sport. Like, I think everyone was really excited, and I think especially the new fans, they're like, a lot of them told me, they're like, you know, we've never felt as excited ever before with any other sport. And so that shows that F1 can bring that excitement that no other sport can. But I think the way he did it just kind of ruined it in the eyes of everyone.
Oh yeah, it makes you feel so shit. Especially the new fans now as well. Even they know something bad's happened. Like, even they're feeling sort of a bit guilty about, like, it was nice, but, like, I don't know, it wasn't all that because it was manufactured. Like, the fact it was made that way was just not great. But I don't know, so bringing it back to, like, Massey, I guess.
He has to go.
Yeah, there's no excuses. He really has to leave, there's no way. Like, I understand, like, you know, he's got a tough job and all of this, and he should have more people around him. Crofty was saying that the FIA, they get 60% of their revenue from F1, but they're not putting enough attention into, like, you know, creating a good structure around the sport. I'd say
there's one race director and they get 60% of the revenue.
No, the FIA itself as a company,
yeah.
Because they run like WEC, Rally, and all the other stuff. They get 60% of their revenue from F1, which completely makes sense. It's just, instead of creating a good structure about how the rules are in place, because the rules are fine, it's just the people implementing them. obviously now
not all the rules, but yeah, I get what you mean.
The conversation now is the race director, does Massey go? Then how many people do they have in support? And also, why are they rotating stewards? Which is a point you mentioned a while ago.
Yeah, I did read about that. They're rotating stewards. The whole idea behind rotating stewards is to avoid one steward being biased. So if you rotate and you have, like, say, I think they have, it's not like, the way I understood at the beginning was they randomly get people to do the job. But no, they have a roster essentially of like 10 stewards. And then every race they choose 3 of them. So all of them are qualified to do the job. And every race they choose 3 different ones just to kind of balance out of like the bias, okay, towards Hamilton, towards Max and stuff like that. So that's the whole idea. But the stewards are also people who've raced before. If I remember, the guys who've raced, they know what racing is.
I think it's
so
one of the 3 has to have driven before, something like that.
Yeah. So I remember they mentioned there was a Finnish driver a while back. He was part of the stewards. I don't remember. It was relation to like some Kimi Räikkönen incident, like 2018 maybe. But yeah.
So back to the point you were making then. So do you reckon the new race director should be an ex-team boss?
Yes. I think the idea makes sense, you know, like, like, say for instance that they even if they bring in, like, like, Williams, what's her name? Like, I don't think she should be that, but like, I'm saying if they bring her in, Claire, she's been a team boss, she knows how to interact with all of these guys, she's done it for years.
They respect her as well.
Yeah, she's not maybe the best at it, but then she didn't have like the funding to do all of that.
True.
But if she's in that position, she's experienced, she knows like what Toto's like, she knows what Christian's like, you know, all of that. She knows how to deal with them. I think if they bring in the Ferrari guy from a few years back, who's before Matteo
Stefano Domenicali.
Yeah, if they bring him in,
he's the owner of F1.
Is he?
Yeah, Stefano Domenicali owns F1 now.
What?
Do you not know this? Yeah, hold on, let me get this up. Stefano Domenicali owns F1. Basically, Ferrari have a monopoly on the sport now. So all the mafia guys, it actually used to be for FIA, for Ferrari International Assistance, because Ferrari used to get away with everything. What was I saying? Matteo Binotto? No, Stefano.
I thought then Liberty Media owns what if he owns F1?
He is the CEO of the
Okay,
Formula
no,
1
he's not the one I'm talking about. He's the CEO, not the owner. The owner is Liberty Media, no?
Yeah, no, the owner is Liberty Media, sure, but he's the CEO of F1.
Okay, yeah. No,
oh wait, hold on, he replaced Chase Carey.
He's not the guy I'm talking about. I'm talking about the guy who, team boss from Ferrari a few years back, Italian guy.
We did this. I remember we did this, and I forgot his
name. Yeah, you know what I used to.
Yeah, he had the silver hair. Like
yeah. If you say, for instance, if he does it, man, like people wouldn't be able to like. You'd be a good, Maurizio.
Arriva Bene. That's the one.
If he does it, for instance, he knows how to deal with all of them.
Yeah.
Like you'd say the only thing would be like say a language barrier, but like you can't say for instance he's got the experience of dealing with high stakes, high pressure situations. He's dealt with all of them. He knows what he's doing.
He knows the rules as well. Like we said this, so that like if you're in a team, you know how to finesse the rules in your favor, which means if you then become the owner of F1, you're aware of what they're gonna try and do. So like you almost. I'm trying to think of an example for this, but like, do you know what I mean? It's so much better to.
You know who should do it? You know who should do it? I thought of a better name. Ron Dennis.
Oh God. No.
Imagine Ron Dennis coming back.
Ron Dennis. For context, Ron Dennis. If you imagine, McLaren's a fun, bubbly, orange team. Just imagine McLaren 5 years before that, completely grey. Not because the chrome car was iconic, but like their office is grey, the personality of the team grey, the way they drive grey, the way they act grey. Like it was.
No, but he wouldn't be put in that position because of Spygate. Like they wouldn't trust him.
Oh yeah.
They wouldn't trust him based on that. Like he stole from Ferrari, put the designs into his own car. To go on and win a champion, they're not gonna let him do it after
Spygate that. Actually, that's the video I'm gonna link. I'm gonna link Spygate in the description of the YouTube video.
And Crashgate, you have to mention Crashgate as well.
If we're doing Spygate, I'll
you
do
have to mention
Crashgate as well. Fine.
That's where Renault purposely crashed a car in Singapore for Fernando to go win the race because of like safety car and everything. And the funny thing is, he won the next race, or like I think one of the next 2 or 3 races, he won purely on pace. They didn't have to crash, but they wanted that win, and they went so bad for it, they crashed the car, and then he won on pace like for 2-3 races afterwards. I find that like hilariously ironic. Yeah.
Salty fans are saying that potentially what they were trying to do with Perez, you know how Ted Kravitz mentioned the underfueling thing as a conspiracy, not based on anything. People have taken that a step further and said, oh yeah, they were going to crash Perez's car on purpose to try and bring the safety car out.
You know, that's the thing, like if it's Mercedes, I'd say no. Like McLaren, all of these time. If it's Red Bull, I expected them to do something. Like I expected Perez to actually slow down. Like, I expected him to slow down and like force some sort of contact with Lewis.
You mean brake testing?
And he couldn't like that's the thing. The track is too wide for him to brake test Lewis.
Yeah.
But I'm saying as in, you know what, during the overtaking, if like say he overtook, like you know the one where he overtook Lewis on like the inside and then he pushed Lewis to the outside. If he had pushed too far right, he would have like taken Lewis's front wing, and he'd be like, it's by mistake, you know.
He got me a puncture, bro. No, tragic.
But Lewis would have had front wing damage. Made it a lot easier for Max to catch up with him and stuff. But I think they held on because I think there was the idea that it's not desperate. I don't know, like I expect it from Red Bull, I don't, but maybe the team has changed from like what they used to do in up to 2014. And just like, you know, we mentioned like a fun fact from the past. I bring up a fun thing. Red Bull's sister team, or Red Bull's smaller team, AlphaTauri, used to be Toro Rosso. They won before Red Bull ever won.
The 2000, was it 7?
2008.
It was Monza.
Yeah. Sebastian Vettel won in the Toro Rosso.
In the race.
So, in the race, bro, that race, you have to watch that race. But
I'm gonna link that one as well.
But he won that race, and that made Toro Rosso win a race, even though it's the smaller team, before Red Bull ever won a race. I think they won
here's a really good question for you. So, for context, Red Bull was founded or created, they were put on the grid in 2005, Toro Rosso 2006, and then the win you're mentioning is 2008.
Yeah.
Right, and then Red Bull then, I think they won their first race in 2009.
9 and then won 10, 11, 12, 14, 13.
With the championships.
Yeah.
Now that we've seen Red Bull absolutely pour all of their resources into this year, do you reckon AlphaTauri could finish above them in the championship?
That would be so fun.
They're doing really well. Like Tsunoda had a great race last time.
Yeah.
He said he's confident in the car now. Gasly's obviously Gasly. If they have a decent car, do you reckon there's potential that they could finish above Red?
That's the thing. If you actually look at like the team, they spent. I think AlphaTauri spent most of its money on resources.
Yeah.
Sorry, next year, whereas Red Bull didn't. But so, yeah, it could be possible. You know, that would actually be so fun. I think Max would finish above the 2 other guys.
Oh yeah, no, he would do. Yeah.
But it's funny because I think that it's possible. You know, you can't say it's not possible. Especially with Red Bull spending all its money this year on this car. Excuse me. Then, yeah, it's possible.
I was trying to find out if it's...
I don't think it's gonna happen. Really. I think Red Bull will finish ahead, just purely because if they're ahead, a team call will come to force their Red Bull ahead, even if they.
You mean even in like first race like Bahrain, like?
Yeah, I think that would happen.
Really?
They wouldn't allow like someone from AlphaTauri to finish ahead of them. I don't think so. But yeah, we haven't talked, by the way, about like the races for next year. The races that are gonna have the what's called the race before I forgot, the useless race.
Oh, the sprint race.
The sprint race, yes.
We'll get into the sprint races in a sec for the future, but for now, actually, we'll mention it in a bit. Yeah, actually, I know what that'll fit in. So as we've said, Mercedes have withdrawn their appeal. Here's the problem with the system they're running now. So we said right at the start, if they appealed, then chances are they'd win the case. And, talk about what that would mean for the sport and all of that stuff. the reason they said they probably win, but also they kind of had doubts, is because you're not allowed to go to the. There were two courts people were talking about. The Court of Arbitration for Sport. They weren't allowed to go to that, which means because of I said last time something to do with the constructors. Once they enter the championship, they say you have to settle your stuff in the International Court of Appeal,
which is an FIA court.
So the International Court of Appeal is the statements describing it. The first paragraph or one of the paragraphs will say it's completely separate from the FIA. But then the next paragraph says you speak to a panel of 36 judges who were implemented by the FIA. So it's separate from the FIA, so it shouldn't be biased. But the people who are doing the judging are chosen by the FIA.
And then there's a court above that.
Yeah, but they're not allowed to go to that. So what
the
Toto
FIA
was
is
saying...
the FIA is allowed to push the case up to the court above, but Mercedes cannot go straight to the top court.
Which is the top court you're talking about?
It's the one where McLaren was judged. Is the International Court of Motorsport or something like that.
I don't know. What I saw was the options Mercedes has was to go to the International Court of Appeal. But Toto has called it the FIA marking their own homework. And quite a few, media outlets are talking about that as well.
Can't mark their own homework,
I mean, surely that's got to change now.
Yeah,
as well.
I think.
I doubt they'll change that in their investigation they're doing, but that's got to change.
Surely. Yeah, if you look up the other one, you'll see it. They judge McLaren, but it doesn't make sense, does it? Because then they just push whatever they want.
Yeah.
They just keep pushing their own one. I'll send it to you. I'll check and I'll send it to you. Yeah, it's Federation Internacional. Oh no, that's the FIA.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely another one. I'll send it to you if I find it. But yeah, that's nonsense to be honest.
Honestly, they've got to change it because that's honestly it's not great. And the FIA
or it has to be judged by a totally different everyone. The International Court of Appeals becomes literally just a totally separate organization where people come in from they have to have no background with the FIA to judge the case. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It can't be someone chosen by because the FIA will just choose people to do exactly what they want.
Yeah, realistically, the complaint Mercedes lodged with the stewards right after the race, that should have been overturned instantly. They should have been given it there. But obviously, they didn't. They found whatever way they could to make sure that 2 hours after the race.
You're talking about the rules. You're saying the rules are good, but then they give the guy the total control over the safety car.
We won't get too much into this because we
argued
about
this last time. You can't have that.
Really
You can't have that though.
I don't agree that says that means that.
But that's the way they're implementing it. But I think that rule shouldn't even be there.
It should be there because the clerk of the. So here's the funny thing. Actually, I read them again. When it says.
You can tell he's very bored. He didn't want to do his course, so it's just sitting there.
You can see the. When it says I said Article 48 talks about the safety car. Point 1.2 is about the lapped cars. Point 1.3 is about bringing them in or bringing the safety car in. Every single reference to how it happens, it says the clerk of the course shows up this message, and then it shows lapped cars can now overtake, or the clerk of the course shows this message, and then it says the safety car is in this lap. But then you go back to 15.3, and it says the race director has overall authority, which means he can override those decisions from the clerk of the course. So it's referencing the fact that he can override whatever the owner of the course can do that. No, because he still has to follow those rules. He still has to follow. He has overriding authority.
That's the thing. I think that rule needs to be kind of. I think the FIA have to look at the rules. I don't think the rules with racing need to be changed. I think they need to be made clear as in what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah.
And that rule needs to be changed to make it clear that he doesn't have overall authority over the safety car. Rather, he just has authority over this, and this, and made the rule totally clear. He has to follow the rules. This is within the bound of, say, all the other rules. The bounds of all the other rules. He can't just go make up rules and be like, I'll follow half of them
Well,
and not follow
that's
that.
the thing. So this brings us back to what we were saying earlier. Rules to do with the cars, the drivers, the racing, and stuff like that. They have to be airtight because otherwise people are going to take advantage. Rules to do with the race director and things like that, they don't have to be perfect because as long as you get someone good to run those rules, then it's fine.
Yeah,
when
because
Charlie
these
Whiting
rules
was
were
in
the
charge,
same when Charlie was in charge.
when Charlie was in charge, I never read the rules. I didn't care. I didn't need to know the rules. I was a teenager, and also, as much as I was interested in F1, I didn't have to go around downloading PDFs of the rules to try and argue with people on Twitter. Like, what is this? That's so, like, it's stupid. No one cared. Back when Charlie Whiting, no one.
He
no
did a
one
much
brought up the
better
rules,
job. I think he didn't care, because he didn't care about the show, he cared about following the rules. That's the only thing he cared about. He didn't care about rules or whatever. Michael Massey's been in for 2 years, yeah?
Yes. Yeah,
and
start
then
of 2019.
in Eiffel, the Eiffel Grand Prix in 2020,
That's Nürburgring.
he said that, so the safety car went too long and everyone was complaining. He's like, we had to let older cars go past. It's the rules. And then he goes and he breaks his own rules, bro. He's not following his own rules. This is what annoys me is the people from the FIA. So I think Michael Massey is part of the FIA, essentially in terms of like he's their representative.
Yeah.
They wrote the rules and they're breaking their own rules, bro. As in,
It's a joke.
He's not like. You're breaking your own rules. It's not like a team principal breaking the rules because he's a naughty kid, breaking the rules. You're the FIA representative. Oh,
you made the rules and you're breaking them for the. Like, just to talk about, so that quote, it was brought up somehow on F1 Twitter and then it ended up being in the British media. Now, for people who don't know, like, just to talk about the scale of, you said, like, everyone's talking about this, to talk about the scale of how big this is now. The British media, the racist British media, including the Daily Mail, like, all sorts of racist publications who have been, they've been slating Lewis at every opportunity they get. All of their back pages are Lewis robbed of the championship, Lewis robbed all of this. Talking about robbery and Grand Theft Auto, I think was one of them. Like, they're fully behind him, which I guess goes with your thing about the image, because now he's seen as, he's not seen as the guy who broke Schumacher's records in the courtroom. He's the guy who should have broken it but got it robbed off him. And they've been talking about, so including...
And if he leaves now, it's going to just look very bad for Formula 1.
We'll get on to the retirement talk in a sec. So there's including that, so after the race, trending hashtags, Massey out, fixed with like the one, so like F1 XCD. What else is there? There was all sorts of stuff. Honestly, so Lewis Hamilton, I stand with Lewis Hamilton was trending, Lewis Hamilton in general was trending, robbed was trending, and then just as this went to die down, on Wednesday, Lewis was knighted. So once again, Sir Lewis Hamilton's trending on Twitter. They're talking about him again. They're still talking about him. Then, I think in that afternoon, the FIA released their statement blaming the fans. Once again, it brings it, like, just as it's about to die down, it comes back up again. And then on Thursday, Mercedes released their statement. And then there's all the reaction to that. So it's been a week and people are still talking about they're all over the place, honestly. It's mad. It's incredible. Like, it's actually everywhere.
I think the best thing for Mercedes now is just put this behind them and focus on designing the best car they could to just go on and win it for, like, if Lewis is going to continue, win it next year and retire.
So, yeah, these are the two options we've got now for what happened. Not, like, completely, but we'll say these are the two options. Lewis Hamilton, so people are comparing this to 2016. Lewis in his...
No, but, like, you can't...
No, you can't. I'm just saying, in terms of Lewis's mentality, Lewis loses the title in 2016, you think, if my engine didn't blow up, I would have won, blah, blah, blah. He comes back stronger than ever in 2017.
Yeah.
This time, obviously, is a completely different situation. It was completely out of his hands and robbed of him because of breaking the rules. But they're saying it's different. But, like, he's lost the championship in close circumstances.
No, because of his fault. It's out of his hands. It's not his fault.
So now, he comes into next year. Do we see a better Lewis Hamilton than ever? And he comes back and, whether he's given the car or not, performs incredibly. Or do you see him retiring because, of what happened?
I think, like, Red Bull aren't going to have a good car.
Nope.
But Mercedes are going to have a good car. Because they've invested all their money into next year's car. They're literally, the W12 is the W11 just made for these regulations. They just tweaked the car essentially, whereas Red Bull went out and designed a fully, like upgraded the car and everything. Basically everyone did that except Mercedes, because they had such a big leap on everyone else. And they saved all their money for next year. All the upgrades they brought this year were like tiny things essentially, not really worth mentioning. All they did was save the money and use it for next, because they know like next year is really where it is. So I think Lewis is going to have a good car next year. I think with this defeat he's going to be motivated to go on and win it again and break that record. But I think like the only person now who can compete for a championship, like I think in the future in like 2-3 years, I think like, or maybe 2 years, I think George will be there, I think Lando, Charles, these guys will be ready to fight for a championship then, because they will have fought at the front for long enough.
Yeah.
I think the only one who's really up there with Lewis now is Max. If Max is in a bad car, Max is not the front, I think Lewis will run away with it.
So you're saying next year Max's car isn't good enough and the rest of the drivers aren't experienced
because
enough?
Max, that's the thing, people are talking about like Lewis won it when he had the better car, like all these years, but Max won it this year realistically because he was in the better car. Max was in the better car the worst car the past few years. He was nowhere to be seen. He wasn't even consistent in terms of like getting in say P2 or P3. Like he retired so many times because of his own driving.
True, yeah. Until I'd say last year, maybe.
So you can't really say like Max was like. Yeah, I mean Lewis pulled it to the end of the season this year in a worse car, and he still competed. Max would not be able to do that, especially because I think the gap between them is going to be much bigger. But we'll see. Maybe with the new cars it'll be easier to follow. But if you're slower on the straight, like. You're not catching. If you soar over the course of a lap, you're not catching them. The only thing it's going to do is going to make it, once you catch them, it's easier to overtake. But to catch them, that's an issue. Like Max was 10 seconds behind and it was only growing every lap. So from next year, I think Mercedes know like focus on next year, drag it as much as possible this year, get Red Bull to spend all their money this year, and next year is going to be a massive detriment to Red Bull, especially with Mercedes getting the bigger budget this year than Red Bull, because they won the constructors.
Oh yeah, of course, the constructors' money.
So they have a bigger budget as well in that sense.
Definitely. Well,
we should cover as well, and we'll cover in one of the videos like the whole new budget cap and how that is applied, and like with sponsorship, where the money's coming from, all of that stuff. Does that apply to the engine? Does it not apply to the engine?
Yeah. Well, so about yesterday at time of filming, in the afternoon, they had the ceremony for the prize giving. So Max got given his championship trophy. Mercedes had James Allison there. Toto and Lewis weren't present to pick up their constructors trophy. The cars that were there for the constructors, there was like a picture shown of all the championship winning cars. Mercedes Formula E car wasn't there, and then Mercedes F1 car wasn't there also, missing from the picture. There was like a WEC car, a rally car, because the FIA runs all of these events.
That just looks so bad for the FIA.
What do you think? Like,
it's Mercedes applying pressure on the FIA, because Formula 1 is the biggest FIA sport.
Yeah.
You can argue that Formula E is getting up there, but I don't think it's the biggest. But when you have like two of your most important championship, like your biggest championship, Formula 1 is the biggest motorsport championship by far. Yeah. I don't think IndyCar falls under the FIA.
No, but even if it did, that's just America.
Yeah, but so the second biggest and third biggest are IndyCar and Le Mans. Like essentially, those are the three biggest kind of motorsport events. With IndyCar not being there, with Le Mans not being there, Formula 1 anyways is much bigger than both of them combined essentially. So Formula 1 is the biggest. To have the Formula 1 car not there, to have the Formula E car not there, which is what the FIA is pushing, because they want to they want it to grow essentially. It just looks bad for the FIA. It looks bad not just for the sport but for Formula E as well. It just makes them look like a bunch of children, you know. Not Mercedes, like the FIA.
Yeah.
Like you can't manage your own team, like the teams in your sport. And I think this looks really bad because Porsche and Audi really wanted to come into the sport. Will they actually want to come in now?
Yeah, we'll get into this on the future, but like this could have a big impact on the future of F1. We'll try and see, like, it all depends, and we have no clue what could happen, but, like, this could have, like,
I'm
a
so
snowball
excited to
effect,
see how it's
really.
going to be covered in Drive to Survive. Because
Oh,
Drive to
God,
Survive
oh, God,
is,
oh, God.
but that's the Netflix has like the right to tell the story however it wants to tell the story.
True, yeah, very
So it's not actually under Liberty Media in the sense that it doesn't have to say what Liberty Media wants, because it's not part of the FIA or anything like that. They have freedom to essentially report on it whatever way they want. So I am interested to see how they're gonna have to bring it from Lewis's point of view, isn't it?
Yeah, because Max has said
'Cause
he's
Max
not going
is-
to be in there.
Exactly. So I think Max is gonna come out looking like the villain in this.
Yeah, people did say he looked like that in 2018 as well.
I think that's
So
why
that's
a lot
why
of
he
people
doesn't want
hate Max was because of in Drive to Survive he looked like he wasn't there, he didn't want to do it, and it made him look really bad.
That would make sense, yeah. That's exactly why I'm not a huge fan of Rush either. As much as Rush is a great film, Niki Lauda commented saying, like, you know, they didn't really touch on, the only thing they were missing, it was historically accurate, the only thing they were missing is that him and James Hunt were friends. Like, they painted him to be the angry Austrian guy, and this is the great, incredible Englishman that everyone loves. But he wasn't an angry Austrian guy. The guy almost died, and he was still, like, winning the championship. Like, he should have won that championship, realistically. He missed 3 races, and he lost it by, like, what, like 1 point?
1 point, yeah.
And because he retired from that race out of safety reasons.
But then
So-
you also say that James Hunt put it so far on the line at that last race that perhaps he did deserve.
Sure, yeah, no, like, you can argue which one deserved it more,
But yeah,
Just
Niki,
the fact they
he
made
retired.
Niki
He
look
retired
like
4 races, and he still was 1 point with them winning the championship.
and he came back, what was it, like 4 weeks later or something after the accident to
Not
come
even
back
that,
racing or something like that.
Less, I think. 4 weeks. Yeah, something around there. Yeah.
Yeah, so painting people out to be it's a media story. They need
Exactly.
to pick a villain, and Max was picked as the villain.
I think this. Yeah, but Max. Yeah, this year it can go either way. I think because Lewis is speaking to them. But that's the thing. They did it with Carlos and Lando, which loved each other, and they made it out into like. Do you know, like, they took radio, like, from different laps, different parts of the circuit,
doing that.
and they put it together, and it seemed like Lando wasn't even speaking to Carlos, he was speaking about someone else, and they made it seem like they're fighting, and I hate that.
This is why we've got to do the review episode, because it's going to be, we just know it's going to be a mess. They love that clip, you know, when Charles crashed into Seb, and he shouts like, "Mein Gott, muss das sein?" Like, is that necessary? Or so he shouts it. They use that clip all the time. They actually love it so much. But alright, so that really sums up everything going on right now. So we'll move on to, I guess, the effect this has on the future of F1. Jean Todt, who ex-Ferrari member actually,
It was 12 years as the FIA president.
he's now left. This isn't because of the controversy. He's just left because he was retiring anyway. The new president has been elected. It's a guy from the UAE called Mohammed bin Suleiman or something.
Yes, I remember.
On top of that, Ross Brawn has left F1 now, and so has Pat Simmons.
I think losing Ross Brawn will have a much
I love Ross Brawn.
bigger effect on Formula One than people realise.
Yeah, definitely.
Pat Simmons is kind of like, yeah, I think Ross Brawn is a much bigger deal leaving. John Todd as well, I don't think is that big of an issue, to be honest.
Do you know he went on a rant during the ceremony yesterday? John Todd had a rant about they asked him about the FIA or something, but he had a rant about what happened and the controversy and stuff. And he just said, "Oh yeah, we should be thankful these guys are alive. We should be thankful that Grosjean's alive because of the accident last year. We should be thankful Lewis is alive." It was, the guy was clueless. Honestly, the clip is really funny because he just digs himself a bigger hole. He completely misses the point and just goes off on a rant about.
He doesn't know
completely
what he's
nothing.
talking about.
Yeah, well,
He's
gone.
very old, so.
They all are.
I never liked him. That's the thing. I never liked John Todd. I don't like him.
I actually don't know what he does. Like, I know he's the
but I
FIA
don't-
president.
Yeah, but I don't. And like even when he's up for like, you know, when you watch the old kind of Formula, I just don't like him. I swear there was there was so much controversy with him. Like it happened a few times, but I don't remember what he did. But I remember there was something.
We'll look into it for the next one because I wouldn't be surprised. He reminds me of my old boss. I worked in an old retail. You know what? If you worked in retail, he looks like the kind of boss you'd have. Like literally like 3 foot tall, but like shouting at everyone. Like you're shouting at some poor 16-year-olds to like stack shelves faster or something. But so that's the replacement there. How do you think this looks for the image of, first of all, Max's championship, and then the whole of F1 in general?
I think with time it'll be. I don't think Max cares.
No, yeah, he definitely doesn't care.
I don't think. But that's the thing. I think if you won the championship, I don't think he'll care, even if it's like even if Lewis won it off the back of controversy. I don't think he cares so much. Not if it's encore. If you win it on track.
Yeah.
Like if Lewis caught up and won, I don't think Lewis would have even cared. So I don't think Max cares. I don't think it would make like that big of a difference, because I think Max will win, like in the future, win more championships. So I don't think it'll be that big of an issue, because
if it's his only championship.
Exactly. If it's if it's the only championship, then it will always be mentioned. I think Max will probably win one or two more at least one more. Then so I think not that big of an issue, because I think that would be kind of, well, I've proved my point kind of to you. I don't think he'll win it next year, or in the next 3 or 4 years. I think that would be different drivers. But I think afterwards, by the time Red Bull kind of catches up to everyone, because it's shown like Red Bull, when they did the same thing in 2013 going into 2014, they did not spend as much money in the 2014 car, and it literally took them from 2014 to 2021 for them to catch up and for them to compete. I don't think it'll take that long.
Yeah.
But as in, if you look up historical data, they do spend more on just win the championship now, and then we'll deal with that later down the line.
Yeah.
We don't mind having a few bad seasons, but then there are a few bad seasons where like third, fourth in the championship.
Yeah, it's
so
not
it's not
awful.
really awful, but I don't see him doing like what Fernando was able to do with the Ferrari, for instance, where he dragged a much worse car to win. I don't think he has that. I don't think he'll be able to do that.
That's a fair argument, yeah. But I guess with
in terms of Formula One, I think it just makes the sport look really bad. Like you can't look at it in any way. It's kind of like when the Super League came out, the European Super League. It just reflected badly on all of football.
It just looked detached.
Yeah. I think it's a bit different, obviously, from this, but I think it just makes the whole of Formula One look really bad. Like not the drivers per se, but the sport in general. I think people are becoming a bit disillusioned with the sport, because if I'm watching it because I want to watch competition, you know. I'm not watching it because I want you to go and ruin it because you want to make it more exciting. That's not acceptable. That's the whole point of Formula One is teams go off, you have a list of rules, and you're engineering engineering, I forgot the word. Ingenuity.
Oh.
Your engineering ingenuity is what gets you to win the championship. You obviously need a really good driver, but if your engineering team is bad, you're not getting a good car. The whole point is you think of odd solutions that can boost your performance. Like, you know, we saw like the car with 6 wheels and like stuff like that, because fan at the back, all of that, because that's how far they're pushing the limits. We want to see that, but when you engineer it this way, it ruins the whole sport, because it ruins the purpose of like the idea behind setting the rules. Because if you're just gonna do that, then just put them all in the same car. What's the point of having all this engineering ingenuity only for you to swipe it away?
The winner at the end of
exactly. Like, what's the point? Like, Mercedes would have won it purely on pace at the end of the season, and then you stole it from them, gave it to a different guy, to Max. Max deserved it over the course of the season, no argument there.
Yeah.
He would have won it earlier if not for like stuff that's outside his control.
That's why I feel like he won't mind as much.
Yeah, but then I think just the way they did it just ruins the image of the sport, disillusions. Like, if Lewis retires, I think that just it would ruin F1 for a big fan base.
People don't want to say, as much as Bernie Ecclestone, so before 2017, F1 never really cared about their media side of things, but Lewis Hamilton still has more followers than F1 on Twitter. I think on Instagram he's on 26 million and F1 is on like 16 or something like that. And then on Twitter, I don't know if it's around the same. I can actually find out.
He's at that point.
He's bigger than the sport, realistically.
Yeah, realistically, he's at the same position Michael was at when he came to retire, where when you think of the sport, you think of him. I think maybe Max is kind of like, people think of Max now because of Drive to Survive. People know more about the drivers, but Hamilton is still kind of like the biggest driver in the sport.
Yeah, like before Drive to Survive, because now that's introduced everyone to all the drivers. If you knew F1, you'd just say Lewis Hamilton, that's it. You wouldn't know anything else, you just say Lewis Hamilton.
If you didn't know F1, Lewis Hamilton is the only driver you knew, basically.
Yeah, and that's why if you look at the pictures from the American Grand Prix in COTA...
it's just Lewis.
Yeah, it's literally, they're all Lewis fans because it's the only guy they've heard of. Obviously,
and
the turnout wasn't as big, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, I think they've ruined the sport for, like, a lot of people.
Are they on the same amount of followers? They're on the same amount of followers.
Yeah, but this is Twitter, no one cares about Twitter.
Fair enough. But yeah, they're on the same amount. On Instagram, Lewis is like clear by 10 million or something. So
he's a much bigger, like, in terms of, like, based, he's much bigger. I think he's reached that point where he's, you know, like, I think it was a bit more like 2018, 2017, where he was, I think at that point he was kind of like, he was bigger than the sport. I think now
because he was still doing media and stuff as well at the time.
It diminished a bit because of Drive to Survive and stuff, but I think he's still at that point where he's got like a very loud, not loud voice, but like he's got a lot of influence.
Yeah. His name holds weight, definitely.
I think if he wants to ruin the sport, he just retires now, and Formula One is in for a disaster, bro.
Completely.
Or he goes. I don't think he'll retire. I hope he doesn't retire. I want him to go on and win it, but like
I hope he doesn't.
say next year, because then if he comes back again, there's no argument of him like he lost it this year. He would have won in a worse car. He lost it just because of the FIA. And I think that kind of proves his point that he didn't just win because he was in a better car. He won because he was just better. Yeah. This year, whoever won the race won because they're in the better car. Except Lewis won at the beginning purely on strategy, essentially. Like Mercedes pulled out a very, very good strategy. Barcelona, Bahrain, and one more, Portimao. They pulled out really good strategies. That's why they won. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and so we'll see. So now moving into the sponsors, this could also have an effect on. So Paddy Power, astaghfirullah, betting on that. But they've actually, I think they've refunded people. I think I read the tweet or something, and it was like, I think they're handing out money based on if you betted on Max or Lewis winning Abu Dhabi, and then Max or Lewis winning the championship, they're like refunding the bets or whatever it is, or they're giving out the winnings as if both of them won. So if you betted on Max winning, you win, and if you betted on Lewis winning, you also win, or something like that. So they've realised it's a mess, and they're refunding people. The sponsors now. We've already spoken about Porsche and Audi potentially trying to get in when the engine regulations change in 2026. Do you really want to? F1 is known as a business move, it's very risky. You can invest your money and you have to invest loads of money, but even the teams don't make huge amounts of profits. You need to be able to use the sponsorship time to sell stuff.
The teams make no profit, as in the teams break even, that's it.
Yeah.
No team in F1 makes profit.
Specifically the F1 team,
Yeah. I'm saying as in no team in Formula 1 makes profit. They use it as a marketing scheme, essentially.
That's why the drinks company is sat there trying to win stuff.
Basically.
But, like, if you're Porsche or Audi, like, sure you're going to try to sell cars, but if you're investing hundreds of millions...
But that's the thing, because of the budget cuts, they're not going to invest that much. But then you're thinking about it, do I want to be involved in, say, where Red Bull is right now? Because realistically, if they get involved in the sport, they're going to start making engines. The best thing for them would be to partner with Red Bull on their new Red Bull engine.
Yeah.
That would be the best course of action, realistically. This is for Volkswagen. I think Audi wanted to buy a team. I don't really see them buying a team, to be honest. So Volkswagen, or they could buy Haas, but I don't see him. He waited this year. I reckon he'll wait out the next year, because they actually could, start making better stuff, performing better. But Volkswagen, I don't think they're gonna have to partner with Red Bull. Red Bull aren't quite known for controversy in this sense with the sport doing this, with Volkswagen having their own controversy, with everything that's happening, or everything that happened. You don't know.
The engine thing or whatever.
Yeah. All of this stuff.
Yeah.
Do you really want to get involved in this? Do you want to get involved in more controversy when
you're
trying to create a better image of it?
Brand image is huge now, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't see, because of the way it ended, I don't see them essentially being very keen to jump in.
We'll see, that could be, because F1's just become a very risky investment, so...
But if the FIA come out with better rules, clarity, they fixed everything... Perhaps.
Yeah, they've got a couple months now to sort out that statement, invest stuff. But then, even at the same time, everyone's meant to be on a break now. So if they're trying to investigate stuff, they should try. But they're trying to investigate with the teams.
Mercedes are back at Brixworth today. They were.
Yeah, I saw the pictures.
Yeah. They had like their meetings and all of that. I guess it was going to be all debrief stuff. Talk about the race, what happened.
And then everyone goes on holiday.
Yeah, basically.
So they're going to have to wait quite a while before they can start doing their little investigation into what happened. So we'll see what they say.
I guess for every team every team over the winter, they still have a lot of guys working at the at the factory. So they're going to have anyways like the obviously Toto will probably be off. Lewis, the drivers are off definitely. They're gonna have to wait for the driver's statements and probably team principals. But in terms of like, maybe not team principals, but in terms of like, the team could easily have someone represent them, like as in like I'm here to represent Toto essentially, or I'm here to represent Lewis, whoever, and then they can go on holiday. But we'll see.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing is just drive to survive. I'm
excited to see how bad it's gonna be very interesting to see their take on it.
Yeah, seeing as they're partly blaming Netflix for this as well. I don't think
for bringing in the agenda of let them race.
Yeah, I don't think they blame them specifically as in Netflix was involved. I think the influence Netflix has had now on the sport. They're trying to like, you're blaming Netflix for Massey seeing green when.
I think it's more Liberty Media because Liberty Media want to get more new people into F1. They're keener to get the younger audience involved in the sport, whereas Bernie was more he was keen to get older people into the sport.
Rich people, yeah.
Yeah, so the demographic they're targeting is very different. And so to target the younger demographic, they need things to be exciting, to be on the edge of your seat, all of this stuff. And I think it's them actually pushing, that's why they brought in Netflix. And so I think it's Liberty Media who's at fault, not Netflix. Because Netflix did exactly what they were asked to do. Create a drama based on the Formula 1 seasons, and they did that. And they did what they do really well. They created a drama. But
yeah, I mean it worked, I guess. Liberty's we'll see what effect this has on them because American fans, they're,
yeah, but American fans tend to like Lewis a bit more. And the American fans are upset obviously by Lewis losing, so they are the demographic they're really focusing on, which is the American public. They want to get them involved. It's not really looking good for them, so I find it hilariously ironic.
Yeah, they've shot themselves in the foot, and I guess just to bring this all to a close, it's another example of why they don't actually listen for what the fans want. Like, they're trying to create drama and stuff, but like I said, a lot of the new fans I've been speaking to, they're interested because of the engineering. And that was already there from the start. Like, they're not here because we're going to have 14 sprint races, hand out 26 points every 4 laps, and there's going to be no safety cars anymore because we need green flag racing. Like, they're here for the engineering. They like the cars, they like the people, they like what's going on, and they like what F1 already has. Like, they don't even... I don't know, as much as people like the sprint races as entertainment, they're not, they're I don't know, even without the sprint race, and yeah, they haven't even been that interesting, but even without the sprint race, they would have been fans of F1 anyway. Like, you don't need to be trying so hard to get all these young fans, you just need to listen to what they're actually asking for.
Fair racing.
Yes, and following the rules. And I guess if you want to bring up this last thing, you wanted to say, we have news of where the sprint races will be.
Oh yeah.
In next year. So do you want to just explain the sprint race championship format thing they've got going on?
I don't know.
What we're trying to get. Okay. Well, so Ted Kravitz, my incredible man, he was what was he saying? He said that the sprint races next year will be part of their own championship. Okay, I found it already. They'll be part of their own championship. They won't have it interfering with the grid and all of that, the qualifying. The races that I found this list, the races that they're saying could potentially run the sprint race next year.
Yeah, I saw a confirmation of this.
Oh, okay. So I got this from some
different source.
Okay, so I've got some Dutch guy who said this, not from a Dutch publication, and then it was liked by someone. I think he works for the BBC or something. They've said Bahrain, first race this season, Imola, Montreal, because we haven't been to Canada in a while, Spielberg, which is Austria, Zandvoort, and then Interlagos, Brazil.
Wait, Austria is having 2 races next year.
No, I just said no. Sorry, I didn't say Spielberg in Austria. I just meant Spielberg in Austria.
Yeah, but they already have. Oh, that's Belgium. Sorry. Spa is Belgium. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're not gonna have. Wait, they're not gonna have the. Is the Austrian GP already there?
It should be on the calendar. I mean, we.
No. I mean,
what do you mean?
So we raced at Spielberg this year.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know his name. That's why.
Yeah. So we had Austrian GP and Spielberg, whatever the other name was.
Okay. Yeah.
Spielberg is the name of the track, like
Okay.
Interlagos.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I thought it was the director.
This guy.
There he is.
Race director, film director. What do you think of the 6 though that we've given the list of?
I think they're probably good races to have. Zandvoort. Besides Zandvoort, I think they're very good for. Zandvoort is just. Zandvoort is not that good for overtaking, is it? I guess with next year the cars being a lot closer, with it not being dependent on on the front car for like downforce and stuff, it could be a lot more interesting. I think Zandvoort is a very interesting track, but I find it like all of the others have kind of quite a lot in common.
Yeah. And
Zandvoort is kind of like the odd one out.
Do you think it's because it's perfectly fair to choose where you're going to do the sprint race based on viewership and entertainment and all of this, because you're going to try and find the best? Do you think it's purely because
I think they chose it purely.
Wins, massive images right there,
exactly,
like the pictures of Zandvoort.
But then they could probably want to do one in Silverstone as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised Silverstone didn't get one. It seems like
because Silverstone is like perfect, but I guess Silverstone was a bit boring in terms of like.
True. Yeah. No, the Silverstone sprint race was dead.
Yeah.
So
but I guess like if you do a whole like championship, then all the lower teams will be a lot more be keener to get there, because there is say prize money at the end or something at the end.
They're offering more points now. Yeah.
Yeah, the points don't go towards the championship though. They go towards the.
The theory is the points are more. They go to their own championship, like a sprint race championship. So you'll have a.
And the winner gets like a prize at the end.
No, so either the winner gets a prize at the end, or there's a points conversion, and that gets added to the championship.
Okay, yeah, I get it.
So like, if you get 10 points for a win,
you get like
and
5
then
points.
you win all 6, you've got 60 points. Maybe that converts back to like, I don't know,
20 or 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
We'll see. It's something else they've got to work on for next year. So
the FIA has got a lot of issues to sort out now.
Yeah.
And it's all their fault, to be honest. So
yeah, it's
I don't
all
feel bad for them.
no sympathy for Michael Massey.
Not
at all.
I think he's gonna get fired. I think they're gonna blame him for everything, because he has the right to do whatever he wants.
Actually, yeah.
So they'll just dump all the issue on his interpretation of the rules rather than the FIA, because we've had Charlie for so long, yet we never had any of these controversies. See, Charlie was never tempted to do this, where he let them race and to ruin the championship in the last lap. He just Lewis won in the last lap just purely by rain.
And Vettel won in 2012 under the safety car.
Exactly.
He finished under the safety car in 2012.
He won because the rain changing conditions. That's what made him win. I think Brazil should go back to being the last race. To be honest, it's a race where you get rain. Is because that's the thing. They want the championship to go to the last race and for it to be dramatic at the end. Don't put Abu Dhabi in the end. The race isn't dramatic in any sense. If you put with Brazil, there's a high likelihood of rain, high likelihood of safety car. It's not exactly an easy track to drive.
Overtaking opportunities.
Exactly, perfect race for the last race. Put Abu Dhabi before that.
Because if you think about it, Abu Dhabi,
boring.
Before Latifi
Fernando
crashed,
was stuck.
Whether Latifi crashed or not, boring is completely boring.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
with what's his name? Fernando, he was stuck. Fernando was stuck behind Petrov the whole race.
Yeah.
That would not have happened in say if it was Brazil.
Yeah, we said this last time. So when I said the last title deciders, 2010, the theme was Alonso stuck behind someone. 2014, Lewis just won he got a good start and then won start to finish, led start to finish. 2016, the theme was Verstappen and Vettel couldn't overtake Rosberg, even though Lewis was driving like a tractor. And then now...
Dangerous driving, yeah.
And then 2021, the theme was no one can overtake again. Or like Lewis led start to finish.
To be fair, there was a lot more overtaking this year. I think the track
layout
changes
change was good.
was really good. I just don't see it as the last race of the season.
Yeah, definitely.
It doesn't have that. I think you need somewhere that could potentially have like a lot of rain or stuff like that. So you're sitting there, you're like, is it going to rain? Is it not going to rain?
Yeah,
Because if it rains, it changes everything. And I think besides this year, usually it rains a bit. Like when I think back, pretty much like all the races we've watched, it always rains except like this year maybe, and like maybe
20 didn't go, 19 I can't remember, 18 can't remember.
No. Was it 18 or 19 where Max like? Oh no, that's a few years.
16 was Max.
Max was drove.
12 was definitely rain. 11 I can't remember. 10 I can't remember.
No, but it usually rains and
rain.
it usually puts the championship in like something cool is happening.
Because it's not like full wets. It's normally like between inters and dries, which is perfect.
Or it's usually between inters and like, is it wet enough that you go on the wets? Or
so between inters and dries. Or inters and wets, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you said inters and dries. But then it switches to between dries and wets, inters. So there's a lot of drama. I think that's kind of like what you're looking for. You don't want that with that way. But then money speaks. So.
Money is, the oil money is, we're going to have a 42 race calendar in the Middle East next year.
Bro, I actually think the season is a bit too long in terms of like, I felt like 18, 19 races would have been perfect.
I liked it, yeah. It's annoying.
23 next year, that's going to be tough. It's good for us fans, it's not really good for us.
Eventually they're going to get rid of the winter break. They're going to be like, I've had enough of this, right?
We're going to go down to like 3 weeks. But that's the problem is, you can do that with other sports where they can take really like they don't need a long time off because it's just the drivers like taking some time off.
Yeah.
But for Formula 1 engineers, they need to actually come up with a new car, and that takes time. It's not like
and they're flying all
the
across
design,
the world,
the testing, and all of that. It takes a lot of time. And the funny thing is, they increase the season and decrease the budget.
Yeah, that's stupid.
I think within the next few years, I think people are, because now like every front wing you break is like 100k from your 145 million. 150k or 200, like if it's really intricate, 300k.
Yeah.
So, first of all, if driver keeps like crashing, I'm gonna see him leaving very quickly.
True, yeah.
But the second thing I think is gonna be like either they're gonna be petitioning for either the costs of like say if I'm replacing front wings and like stuff like that to not go towards the 145, or for it to be increased to say like 175 or something, because I think it's gonna be like very, very, very tight.
Yeah, it's a lot of added pressure on the teams.
Yeah. Anyways.
Sick. Well, one last thing. We're going to go into our ideas then for the winter break and what we've got going on. So, these are going to require some research and stuff, but we're going to do obviously a season summary, season review, just go through all the races, see what we think, remind ourselves of what happened. We could also compare it to other historical seasons. We'll come up with, we could do like a historical series where we talk about our favourite seasons in F1, favourite races, something like that. We've got a few guests potentially who could come on as well, seeing as we're going to have to fill this gap up until this time in 3 months.
Some of them would be like experienced fans who've watched Formula 1 for a long time. Some of them are like newer fans that kind of, so we can get the view on like what they thought of the season, what they thought of the FIA, the rulings, all of that stuff as well.
We'll get varying opinions from different people. We'll also do that explaining F1 series I mentioned about all the stuff, so hopefully that should be like a good way of getting yourself into the sport for next year, or to understand all of the talk being said. Obviously technical regulation chat will explain all of that stuff, what they're doing with it. Liberty Media will go, that will be sprinkled in all of them to be fair. Yeah. Comparing it to
just
what Bernie was
about
doing.
Liberty Media the whole time.
That'll be in all the episodes. News updates if there are any more like announcements and stuff. Team members changing, and then we'll design our own track. That's gonna be a good one. We're gonna design our own track. That'll be funny.
Monaco.
And then once we get to the, once we're in March-ish or February time, we'll do some predictions. Livery rankings once the liveries come out in mid-February, and then before
once Drive to Survive finishes, we're gonna have to review that as well.
We'll review Drive to Survive. That will come out maybe 1 or 2 weeks before the season starts. So right before we'll get a Drive to Survive season review in there as well. So that's what you've got to look forward to. Hopefully, we have some time to record between now and then.
Also, in terms of who won the predictions this year, Mohammed was destroyed. 4.5 to 0, not to half.
Fantasy team.
4.5 to half.
Listen, no, it's fine. Okay, realistically, my fantasy team is going to be mad. We're going to make a fantasy league. So when fantasy comes out for next year,
if you guys want to join, we'll also make it.
We'll make a league. We'll give you guys the code, and then we'll show you our fantasy teams. I've got mine. I won't get it up now. I can't be bothered. But it was actually pretty good. Like I actually did solid. So
yeah, but I still won in terms.
I'm not great at predicting.
Still do the predictions as well, just to see who wins on that.
Yeah, that won't change, and I'll actually keep track of the scores this time properly.
Yeah, but
we'll
I won 4.5.
Okay, yeah, no, you
I
actually.
I kept track of it because I destroyed you. Anyways, thank you guys for listening, and I guess we'll probably catch up. There'll be an episode next week, so for you guys to look out for. Anyways, thank you.